A bullet from the back of the bush took Medgar Evers' blood. A finger fired the trigger to his name. A handle it out in the dark. A hand set the spark. Two eyes took the aim.
Today we're at the home of Medgar Evers, who was a civil rights activist here in Jackson, Mississippi. And he was a World War II veteran, and after his service in World War II, he devoted his life to trying to end segregation at the University of Mississippi, and basically all around Mississippi. But he also participated in the investigation of the Emmett Till case, and eventually he became a field secretary for the NAACP, and basically devoted the rest of his life to trying to challenge the authority and the laws here in Mississippi regarding racial bias. So anyway, the family was under constant threat. Sorry, there's this lady over here giving me a stink eye. So okay. Anyway, the family was under constant threat, and he was almost run over as he was leaving his office, and they got death threats. House was firebombed at one point, but unfortunately Evers got a lot of enemies here in Jackson and ended up paying the ultimate price for it. In the early morning hours of June 12, 1963, Evers arrived back home after a long night of working. And strangely enough, it was just a few hours after President Kennedy had gone live on national television, basically saying that we needed civil rights legislation. And it was pretty much his strongest speech that he'd given up to this point about civil rights. But anyway, Evers arrived back home here, and he was struck down by an assassin's bullet as he was getting out of his car. And the assassin bullet came kind of from that direction over there. But Evers ended up crawling all the way up the driveway and to the entryway here, the doorstep, and he collapsed. Now, Merle Evers and the children, their three children, heard the gunshot go off and came out to investigate and found Medgar lying here. And she called an ambulance, called the cops, but sadly, Evers died at a local hospital shortly thereafter. Now, everybody knew that Byron D. LeBeckwith was the assassin. All the clues pointed to him. There were two trials that were held in the 1960s, and of course he had all-white juries, and they never determined him not guilty, but they ended up in hung juries, which meaning they couldn't decide guilt or innocence, and so they basically threw the case out. Well, it wasn't until almost 30 years later that the case was brought back to trial, and they were able to secure a conviction against him. And of course, during that trial, people were saying, "Oh, how could you send this little old man to jail?" But despite his age, he was still an unapologetic racist, and he never ever expressed any sort of remorse or sadness over the death of Medgar Evers. And so anyway, they got a conviction against him, and they sentenced him to the rest of his life in prison, which obviously, because of his age, wasn't going to be very long. But he ended up dying in prison around 2000, 2001, I believe. Could be wrong, but all I know is he's dead, he's gone, he's not going to bother anybody anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very good to see the number of persons out here tonight that are, and certainly this indicates that we are ready for freedom and we're ready to march for it. Yes. I just want to say to you here tonight that the reason I'm up here is because you have given us inspiration in Jackson, and we're going to go back to Jackson, South Mississippi, and all over Mississippi, and fight for freedom as you're fighting for it here in Greenwood. All we want you to do is